West Denver. Sleep deprived and heavily caffeinated.
All right, let's do this then.
This is the Jeff and Bill Show.
I don't agree with that.
They don't always agree, but hey, at least they have coffee.
Coffee.
And each other.
I love you, man.
God help us.
I want to bless him. We need all the help we can get.
Now here's Jeff Hunt and Bill Thorpe. The Jeff and Bill Show on News Talk 710 KNUS.
Well, it's 7 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Monday, June 30th, 2025. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Joining us here in just a few minutes, John Decker, White House correspondent, going to give us the latest on the big, beautiful bill where it currently is in this messy legislative process. We'll also talk Tom Tillis's retirement. Are the kind of not so MAGA Republicans one by one making their exit on stage left? We'll get to that this hour. Most importantly, we want to hear from you. Phone calls, texts, give us a call, 303-696-1971, or text us at 720-819-5115. Now it's time for News and Comment with Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, News and Comment.
Good morning on this Monday. It's 60 and partly cloudy in Denver, expecting a high of 78 gorgeous degrees. News is brought to you by International Fellowship of Christians and Jews. Now is the time to stand with Israel. Call 800-301-1188. That is 800-301-1188, or go to 710knus.com and click on the big red Stand with Israel banner at the top of the page. Our top story, the Senate expected to start the so-called vote-a-rama on DJT's big, beautiful bill this morning. It's unclear if Republicans have enough votes to get it on 47's desk by the 4th of July, and that deadline. In an interview with Fox News, Trump said it's okay if it's passed a few days later.
I don't know. I mean, I can't tell you that. I hate to say yes. I'd like to say yes, but the problem is if we're 2 days late or 5 days late, everybody says, oh, you had a tremendous failure. Whatever it is, as long as we have it. It's very important. If we don't have it, there's a 68% tax increase. If we don't have it, the debt ceiling extension is very important. They gave a debt ceiling, the Republicans gave a debt ceiling because of the importance of doing it. They did that for the good of the country, and Republicans voted for that. They did a big favor. I don't know that I would have done it, to be honest with you, but whatever. They did a favor. Now the Democrats won't do that favor back.
What a surprise there. Investigators calling the fatal shooting of 2 firefighters in Idaho a deliberate ambush. Authorities say a suspect set a brush fire near Coeur d'Alene. When firefighters started battling the fire, they came under gunfire. 2 firefighters were killed and a third was wounded. Roughly 300 police officers descended on the area and exchanged gunfire with the suspect. They located the shooter's cell phone signal, which led them to a deceased man with a gun nearby. And the investigation, of course, is underway. Kilmar Garcia would like to stay in a Tennessee jail after the Trump administration said it would deport him to a third country once released. So in a filing from his lawyers, Garcia's team said, "We cannot put any faith in any representation made on this issue by the Justice Department." He was deported to El Salvador, of course, earlier this year before being returned to the U.S., where, by the way, he doesn't belong. Rory O'Neill, NBC News, on with Jeff and Billy with an update on the Sean Diddy Combs trial after almost 2 months.
Jury deliberations finally start today. There are 5 federal charges against Diddy, including racketeering, transportation over state lines for the purposes of prostitution, conspiracy in there as well. So a lot for the jury to process here as they work through the evidence they've heard over these past 7 weeks. You know, the defense didn't put on much of a case. They cross-examined and questioned the prosecution witnesses, but they did not call any witnesses of their own and relied on their closing argument that was delivered on Friday. So let's see what the jury does here.
A Colorado State Patrol trooper and a highway worker are suffering from injuries stemming from a traffic control area crash in Denver. Trooper Miguel Geronimo and a CDOT contractor are suffering from minor injuries and have since been released from the hospital. The driver, Brian Granillo, fled the scene on US 36 and suspected of being under the influence. Granillo is facing driving under the influence, felony eluding, and other related charges. Slow it down and be careful in construction zones as you head to work this morning and tonight and every day around the metro area.
It's official. Padraig Harrington is a 2-time U.S. Senior Open champ.
All right, at the Broadmoor over the weekend, Sunday, the championship round and final round, and Padraig Harrington wins it in Colorado Springs.
Brewers down to their last out here. Tying run at second. Here's Caleb Durbin.
This ball in the air to left, playable out there for Beck, and the Rockies have won it. Tyler Kinley nails it down. The Rockies in 11 shock the Brewers 4-3.
Good win for the Rockies. Astros at Coors tomorrow night. 57 in Westminster, 58 in Littleton, 60 in Denver. And now, the Jeff and Bill Show continues. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Your 710 5-day forecast here in Denver this early Monday. A few passing clouds this morning. Temperatures right around 60 degrees by daybreak. Then for the rest of your Monday, partly sunny skies with a really good chance for showers and thunderstorms this afternoon, continuing through this evening. Monsoon season is upon us. Daytime highs near 85, lows down to 60. Weather sponsored by Colorado's Best Roofing, reminding you to protect your home from the harsh Colorado weather and schedule your free no obligation roof inspection today at roofingcolorado.com. That's roofingcolorado.com. I'm meteorologist Patrice Sutter in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
We'll be joined here in just a second by John Decker, White House correspondent. On the Big Beautiful Bill, we'll get the latest from Washington, D.C. Look, if you're dealing with this heat and the air conditioner in your home's really struggling, the folks you got to give a call to is L&L Heating and Air Conditioning. Now, prior to L&L, Bill, we had gone with this big corporate air conditioner company.
Oh, yes. You were telling part of the story.
And we signed up to be on their VIP club, which allowed for an annual inspection and then, discounts on any.
The whole idea is, you
like
sign up for the club and you get discounts. Yeah, so the idea is spend the money now and you will save money later.
And we didn't get the best feeling with these folks, so we decided to cancel it.
Yeah.
And it became a journey through the Saharan desert.
Oh, no, tell me why. What?
Not only could you not just call the phone number and cancel it, you had to call the phone number, give your information, a customer service specialist would call you back.
Yeah.
Then they would send you forms you had to fill out. All of this to just get out of this little VIP club.
Oh.
You couldn't just be like, hey, no.
Oh, that's ridiculous. So it's basically like the people that you get those regular email subscriptions and you get into the bottom and you used to say unsubscribe before they passed the law and it'd say, are you sure you want to unsubscribe? Yes. Are you really, really sure? Yeah. Can you respond to the email we just sent you? We don't think you responded to the right email.
Please fill out
email.
a form and
Yes.
sign it with your address, all this stuff in order to get out
and
of it.
we hope you understand cuneiform because that's what you have to use when you're studying.
My wife was losing her mind. She's an attorney and she's just like,
oh, that's funny.
Not happy with all this stuff.
Oh, I bet not.
She's like, this is a scam. She's telling him on the phone because we had to call like 4 or 5 different times. This is a scam. This is a scam. Please, why can't you just cancel?
Yeah, just
we
cancel
don't want the service anymore.
Yes, just cancel it.
Somebody will return your phone call within 24 hours.
No lo moleste.
All right. So we found this great company called L&L Heating and Air Conditioning. They're based out of Parker and Elizabeth, so out near us. And it's a mom and pop operation. They're so easy to work with. You can call the owner. I don't have to get through like
That's
15
crazy.
different barriers. Locally owned and operated. They came out, put in a new air conditioner for us, and new thermostat, and new furnace. Everything works great. Absolutely nailed it. 1-day installation, no stress. Everything works great at our house. Home totally comfortable. Check out L&L Heating and Air Conditioning. Here's the deals they got going on right now. Free programmable thermostat or carbon monoxide detector with new furnace or air conditioner installation. No emergency charges. $0 trip fee. This is not corporate price gouging. This is local small business. Price match value guarantee on equipment, free estimates, licensed and insured, 5-year labor warranty. Everything in our house works great. Love them. Family couldn't be happier. So if you're looking for fast, honest, reliable service, get out from underneath those big corporate stupid HVAC companies and call L&L Heating and Air Conditioning. Here's their phone number, 720-851-1691, 720-851-1691, online at bestdenverhvac.com, bestdenverhvac.com. I'm sure glad we called him. That number again, 720-851-1691. All right, Bill, did you see Tom Tillis is heading out?
Yes, he is. Yeah, and on the way out, he's not making any friends. It's interesting how that happens. And, okay, side note. I have talked about this for more than 20 years, that the only time I've ever felt that I've really known a politician is after they leave office. And this includes a local Denver City councilman that everybody who will know their name that lived 5 doors down from me when I was growing up. Grown-up man, everything else, older than I am, etc., another generation, but knew him as a kid growing up in the neighborhood, and it wasn't always necessarily the same person as a politician, and that person only returned to the guy that I knew after they were out of office. Now, there are all reasons for that. It didn't mean that they went from being, a Democrat to a conservative, or being from conservative and going into being a Democrat or liberal. Didn't do that. But it was just they were always on. And finding out what they really felt about something was very difficult.
We're going to talk about Tom Tillis and more. Joining us now, though, is John Decker. He's a White House correspondent. It looks like, is the big, beautiful bill going to make it through the Senate, back to the House? Is it going to get done by July 4th? Remember, that was what President Trump initially wanted with the big, beautiful bill, was that all this would be wrapped up, all of it, by July 4th. We'll see if he's able to make that happen. Joining us to give us an update, John Decker, White House correspondent. Good morning, John. Thanks for joining the Jeff and Bill Show.
Hey, always great to be on your show. Thanks for having me today. Big day in the U.S. Senate. This is when the so-called voter-rama takes place. What's that? That's when the Senate votes on a slew of amendments that senators want to add to the big, beautiful bill. That's going to take all day. And it's not clear, whether that changes the dynamics of passage in the Senate. We'll just have to wait and see how things occur. Over the weekend, a procedural vote taking place, 51-49. Passage of the bill seems to be on track. 2 Republican senators voted against it, Rand Paul of Kentucky and Tom Tillis of North Carolina. Tom Tillis also saying that he's not going to run for re-election next year, so that made some big news as well.
We're tracking all this. John Decker, White House correspondent. So if it gets through the Senate, like you mentioned, they've got to get through all these different amendments. Does it still have to go back to the House for, a reconciliation process there, or does it just have to pass the Senate?
No, it has to pass the Senate, then it goes back to the House, and the House can't make any changes to the legislation. And there have been major changes that have been made on the Senate side, and we'll see if those changes satisfy House Republicans, some of whom don't like that this bill got exceedingly larger on the Senate side. It's now a $4 trillion plus piece of legislation, over 1,000 pages. In fact, the entire bill was read on the floor of the Senate over the weekend.
That's John Decker, White House correspondent. Now, John, last question for you. We out here on the West, there's been a lot of discussion, debate about Western land sales. From what I'm hearing, is that portion of the bill from Mike Lee was taken out. Is that correct?
Yeah, the reason why it doesn't have anything to do with the reconciliation process. It needs to be, in terms of the language that impacts taxation, either cutting taxes, increasing taxes, and that particular language had nothing at all to do with taxes.
That's John Decker, White House correspondent. Thanks so much for taking time to join the Jeff and Bill Show this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you, as always. Bye-bye.
That's going to be his signature sign-off.
Yeah, it is. I love that.
Did Walter Cronkite have his signature?
Yeah,
Good
but I
night
can't.
and good
Yeah,
luck.
good luck. Yeah, I think that was it.
Was that
it's
his?
been so long since I've heard that one, but yeah, I remember hearing it. I remember sitting on the TV, cross-legged, on the floor, on the carpet, watching Cronkite. So yeah, but it's been years since I remember that. But he always has that nice sign-off. Yeah, but this is going to be interesting. And I was talking to John Corbliss, who's running the video for us, and people will know his name from doing stuff over the weekend and working with Mike Boyle. Hopefully you heard his air debut. I think it was last weekend or the weekend before when he was on with Mike Boyle. Mike had some things going on and it's like, John, I need you to do the next segment. So he did an admirable job. It was really cool to hear him making his on-air debut here at KNUS. And John and I were talking a little bit earlier about all this argument, and it may not be for right now, but over the parliamentarian. How all of a sudden everybody's mad at her over this when it's the Senate that has increased the price tag of this bill significantly, especially the debt portion of it. The difference in the additions to our national debt from the House to the Senate is a $1 trillion increase, going from the larger body to the smaller body. So, I mean, we're not talking about little tiny disagreements of color swatches. We're not talking about, are we going to possibly go with just buying the burgers or buying a meal at the fast food place? We're talking about an extra $1 trillion in debt.
Where is Jared Polis going to be able, and future governors able to build useless bridges?
Exactly, if they don't have that kind of money. Yeah, that's the thing. And so how in the world do you get House members scratched through the previous bill to then sign off on an additional $1 trillion in deficit spending? That's a hard lift, and it's going to be really difficult and this is just what I'm sitting on, is it's going to be really difficult for any member of the GOP caucus to vote for this bill coming out of the Senate and ever again say they care about debts and deficits. That this will erode that plank forever, because what's going to happen is it'll be the classic whataboutism. It'll be the next time they stand up and go, but this debt, hang on, let's go back to what you guys did in the Trump administration. That's what will be brought up, and all of the votes and all of the sound bites will be brought up. So if you're going to go for this one, understand you're taking away your ability to complain about the debt and the deficit.
Bill is slowly through this show becoming more and more like Elon Musk. He doesn't realize it.
Oh, no, not at all. No.
He's morphing to become Musk-like.
No, not at all. Because when I told my mom that something was going to happen this weekend, it happened. Unlike Elon, who's been promising full self-driving for nearly 15 years.
Did you see that there was a car delivered?
Yes.
Via self-driving? That was kind of cool.
Yeah. Did you see all the mistakes they're having in Austin so far?
We're back to this. Every Monday.
No.
Every Monday, Bill and I have the same fight.
Yeah.
Elon Musk could have cured cancer over the weekend at one of the...
Oh, no. If he cured cancer, I'd give him credit for that. The problem is he'll come out and tell us he cured cancer 7 years before it ever happened. That's the problem.
No, that's Joe Biden.
No, that's Elon Musk.
That's Joe Biden said he was going to cure cancer during his administration.
I understand, and that was stupid when they said it. But Elon Musk has this history of promising something and then it not happening for years and years and years.
We'd love to hear from you. Join the conversation, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. I'll be honest, I'm so lost in this process. I worked in the U.S. Senate, and I'm so lost in the process right now. This is just becoming one of those things that just may flop across the finish line.
Yeah.
Because there are attributes of it that need to be addressed. We're still paying Nancy Pelosi's budget. So, yes, I do not support the size of the deficit, but there are things that need to be addressed at this point. And this thing, as I've said a million times, you could start with one page and it's going to end up becoming a monstrosity through Congress. Why? Because the entire thing is just a special interest group delivery system. It's no different than what happens down at our state capitol. They all know how they're going to vote. They all sit there and just stuff these bills full of pork and little special interest laws that have nothing to do with what it was originally intended to be. So,
you know what I love? Go
ahead.
I love the fact that everybody in Congress, as lawmakers, talk about, we need to do this. This is the best choice for the country. And then they go in and they create little carve-outs for their particular constituency, saying it shouldn't apply to us. So basically, our lawmakers, the people in charge of making the rules, say, these are rules for thee, but not for me. And I'm using the word thee intentionally because they are doing it as if they are appointed and anointed. It is literally rules for thee, but not for me. Murkowski got on board with passing through the issue on the debate because she was granted a tax break for whaling ship captains. She was not on board until then. Nancy Mace is asking for several $100 million back for clean energy investments in her state that were cut out. That were cut out in the big, beautiful bill. There are a number of things inside of this. Oh, my favorite is the increase to retirement fund contributions for federal workers. So they're going to mandate, I think it's a 15%. You'd have to take 15% of your paycheck and contribute it to retirement funds is what's going to be mandated, somewhere between 10 and 15%, except if you're a member of Congress or their staff. So remember this. The people that are making the rules say all the rest of the federal workers, except for themselves and their staffs, are now subject to this new tax that is going to put money into retirement accounts. Everyone in the federal government, except specifically those making the rule, are exempt. What does it tell you about the rule? If the rule is so good that you're not willing to live under it, your rule sucks. You are in public saying, this is stupid. I think this is a bad idea. This would hurt me. I'm not going to do it. And for God's sakes, those people that are drawing that paycheck in Congress, they're the ones that can't afford the 15% increase, not the other rank and file federal workers. Please, come on. This is silly. But again, rules for thee, but not for me. Watch this. This is going to get good, guys.
Join the conversation. We'd love to hear from you. 303-696-1971 or text us at 720-819-5115. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
We are Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. The big, beautiful bill. It's moving along nicely, Trump says. Make America great again. It is in the sausage-making process within the bowels of the U.S. Senate. We'll see how it pops out and can get passed over to the House and then passed by July 4th, which is what Trump is looking to have done. Let's go to the phone lines. Barney, Denver. Good morning, Barney. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Yeah, good morning.
So, Jeff, I don't need to tell you, if you worked in the Senate, that the 100 people that work in the Senate, the 100 senators, are about the scummiest, sleaziest, slimiest people in America. Are we correct on that?
There's some good ones, and there's some wheeling and dealing ones, but I worked for Rick Santorum. Ricky was a good one. I like Rick.
Yeah, he's all right, but he still had some goofy. But I'm going to have to go with Uncle Trump's going to have to. This is going to cost him, buddy, because just let me talk about the overtime thing. Are you ready for this?
For it.
So all of us poor saps, and I'm still behind Uncle Trump 100%. I think he should call him out on it. But the overtime thing, so guys like me that rely on that overtime, so you work 40 hours of straight time, you work 30 more hours of overtime. So you work 70 hours a week. That's pretty common with truck drivers. But your 30 hours of overtime is not going to be federally tax-free. What they're going to do is they're going to say, well, it's 30 hours of time and a half. So you're only going to get that half time that you're really not going to get taxed on. So if you do the math on that, buddy, it's basically squat. It's squat. That's what it is. And it's not going to be any different from the restaurant worker or the factory worker. Your 10 or 20 hours is based on of overtime is time and a half. So no, we don't count that on the actual time. It's only on the half time. It's typical senators. They're slimy. They're scummy. You know, let's go ahead and give Wells Fargo, $100 billion to bail them out. But you idiot that has your $2,300 house payment. We're not going to help you out. We're going to help the mortgage side of this. I don't know. I'll tell you, if Trump really wanted to do smart, he'd call him out. He'd say, would you get a look at what these 100 scumbags have just done to my big, beautiful bill? But he won't, but he should. So I'm going to go with Rand Paul on this one, 100%. This is going to cost him, and Uncle Trump, it's going to be political. I don't know how you handle it, but I don't know, buddy. This is they're just so damn scummy. They really are.
This one bothers me, Barney, especially I like the fact you brought up the overtime, because for anyone that didn't hear Barney earlier on, he's talking about the inside the big, beautiful bill, that the way the no tax on overtime is structured is it's only on the half of your time and a half. So if Barney does 30 hours of overtime, that's 30 hours of time and a half, but they're only going to charge him on that extra half. So it really comes down to just no taxes on what amounts to about 15 hours. It's really what it comes down to, more or less. It's inelegant, but that's the idea. And they're going to find another way to turn the screws on you even further, Barney, because it expires in 2 years. So
nice.
Yeah. So again, that's the part. This no tax on tips, no tax on overtime expires in 2 years. So understand this. The tax cuts for the millionaires and billionaires are now codified into law in perpetuity. But in order to make the math balance, they gave you tax cuts for 2 years. 2. Yeah. No, we're not doing 2 years of the extension of the big, beautiful, of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. Those are going to be permanent. All of them get all of those benefits for life. But the promise that Trump made to the average worker during the campaign trail was no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, but only for 2 years, as it turns out, because their math needs to work. And this is the thing: if you look at the economic impact in a curve, if you look at the idea of revenue versus debt, they cross after 2 years. And what happens is you have a little bit of higher debt based on math scores for the first 2 years, and then debt explodes after that, because all the savings program and other programs are gone. And so that's what we're doing here, is they're going to claim all of this job creation and savings for the first 2 years, and then post midterms, everything goes a little bit sideways. And part of this is also structured to it doesn't kick in until after the midterms. So you don't see the economic impacts of this bill, the negative ones, until after you vote in the midterms. So they've time delayed some of these debt bomb things as well. So that's a lot of fun. But you're right.
And
It's not any different. It's not any different than what the Dems do.
And no, and it's protecting the senator, the senator that wears the tighty-whitey underwear that's got him shoved so far up his butt that he doesn't. You know what? It's kind of funny how we're always told, hey, you middle class, you guys don't really count. You blue-collar scumbags, you really don't count. See us billionaires, we pay all the bills, but if the billionaires pay all the bills, then why are you guys so interested in sticking it right up the middle class's butt, day in and day out, all the time? Pay all the time. I'll tell you, they're going to pay a price. And I think my advice to Trump is call him out. Say, look what these scummy little pukes did to my big, beautiful bill. And he won't. And I don't know. What is the dollar going to be worth after this? When does the dollar really go down to being worth what the peso is? Like, do we have to hit 40 trillion?
The weird thing is, there are people inside of the Trump administration that have talked about the idea of that being a good thing, that if we lower the value of the dollar, then we pay less interest. And so that would be the idea of you saying, well, if we let our house start to fall apart and it's not worth this on the mortgage, maybe we can go back to the bank and renegotiate and pay less money on our crappy house because we let it fall apart. That's really what they're trying to do.
Who said that?
Who said what? No, I said that.
I didn't.
Yeah, but the idea of if the value of the dollar goes down, then inflation will be less.
It was floated during the first. It was like right when Trump got inaugurated, or right around that period. It was the idea that inside the economics, a weakening dollar is a plus. I'm not saying it was an official position of the administration, but there were people in the administration that came out and did interviews about how a weakening dollar would be a plus because it would help us on our interest payments. And so it would be intentional. That it's a good idea.
I wouldn't put it past some of these concocted economists, the way they think.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff is really just pretty basic, but you can turn it into a show. But anyway, love you guys as usual.
Hey, thanks, Barney. Have a great weekend,
man. Your mom doesn't kill you, Billy.
Oh, there are moments where if she could get up out of the chair, she would have strangled me this weekend. There's a story about ice cream that I can't share on the air because I don't want to embarrass her.
That would be awesome.
All right, my friend.
Billy Thorpe.
Thanks, man.
Strangling Billy Thorpe and St. Anthony North. Sorry.
Just tell you, man. Hey, one day you show up at the live events, I'll let you. You can strangle me. We'll take pictures.
Hey, I love you guys.
Hey,
appreciate it, Barney.
Thanks, you too, man. Barney,
so
take care.
One of the guys heading out of the U.S. Senate, as Barney was talking about, is John Tillis. John had a kind of feisty statement posted yesterday as he's heading out. He writes, too many elected officials are motivated by pure raw politics who really don't give a darn, he doesn't say that word, he says something else, about the people they promised to represent on the campaign trail. After they got elected, they don't bother to do the hard work to research the policies they seek to implement and understand the consequences these policies would have on that young adult living in a trailer park. He's referencing the fact that he started his life in a trailer park. As many of my colleagues have noticed over the last year and at times even joked about, I haven't exactly been excited about running for another term. That is true since the choice has been between spending another 6 years navigating the political theater and partisan gridlock in Washington or spending that time with the love of my life, Susan, our 2 children, 3 beautiful grandchildren. I'm beyond grateful for the friends I've made, but he is moving on and will not be seeking re-election. This was after he voted against Trump's big, beautiful bill. Now, people are pointing out that, well, he's been facing primary threats for a while. An article written in 2024 in North Carolina Newsline talks about how Tom Tillis has become kind of opposed to MAGA. This article writes that this trend of Tillis v. MAGA has continued to intensify. Again, this was last year. Tillis is not only out of step with much of the GOP electorate on issues like opposition to Russian autocracy, they write, and expansionism that has long been a boilerplate conservative stance. He's also disconnected from most of his state's MAGA-endorsed candidates for higher office. He was opposed to Mark Robinson, as well as Tillis did not endorse some of the other candidates. So there's been a fracturing within the Republican Party in North Carolina between Tillis and MAGA, and it seems to have come to a head at this point. So Tillis, not fully on board, not a team player with MAGA, heading out now, not going to be serving another term. Is this good for North Carolina? Wall Street Journal saying that this could now put the Senate in play if they get too conservative as a Republican nominee next year, then it may not work out well for Republicans. On the other hand, you could get somebody that's a better team player with MAGA. So is it good that some of these more, quote, independent Republicans are here being shown the door?
Yeah. Oh, and I found the reference to devaluing the dollar. Steve Mirren, the chair of Trump's Council of Economic Advisors, and his plan called the Mar-a-Lago Accord. It talks about devaluing and weakening the dollar and doing that with our trading partners. He refers to the fact that the dollar is the reserve currency for the world being a burden, not an advantage. And he wants to do everything he can to weaken the dollar so that we are no longer the reserve currency, which is a little frightening. But that's the guy that was
I'm not
talking
sure I
about
agree
it.
with that.
Oh,
all
no,
right.
not at all. Bad idea.
Tillis heading out. What do you think? Is it good that these types of independent Republicans are being shown the door? It's time to get some change in here, get people that are on Team Trump, draw this or push this bill forward. Because Tom Tillis, along with Rand Paul, voted against this over the weekend. And I want to take you back to Thomas Massie. They're now starting to run TV ads, $1 million TV ads against Thomas Massie in Kentucky. He's being challenged as well. If you remember, there's a Nebraska lawmaker who was against Trump. He's not seeking another term now. So you've got to be MAGA or not right now within the Republican Party. Is that good for the Republican Party? Yeah. Don Bacon is the lawmaker from Nebraska. He's heading out. Mitch McConnell, he's done as well. John Cornyn facing a primary in Texas from Ken Paxton for not being MAGA enough. We're going all in on MAGA, baby.
And on a side note, what happened to David Hogue, vice president of the DNC, when he suggested maybe some Democrats should face primary challenges?
And
what happened
to
him?
Yeah, and we had Deep Singh Bhattacharya in studio. He's calling for John Hickenlooper to be primaried.
Yeah.
So, man,
it's interesting. It's interesting.
Parties are shifting.
That Hogue is second in charge of the DNC. He suggests his primaries, and he loses his job. Trump and MAGA suggest primaries, and the senators and representatives step aside. Interesting power play. There's part of this inside the big, beautiful bill. This is a power play. Absolutely.
Join the conversation. We'd love to hear from you. 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line 720-819-5115. Let's talk. Our friends at Advanced Hair Restoration. Look, summer is a time to feel and look your best. I'm not talking about your abs or tan. I'm talking about your hair. Restore that bald spot, reverse your receding hairline, add volume to thinning hair during Advanced Hair's once yearly summer savings event. Advanced Hair's simple one-day treatment begins to regrow your own natural hair the very next day, and they guarantee your new hair will grow for life. There's absolutely no one I trust more than Dr. Tanya Pauls and her team at Advanced Hair. Take advantage of your flexible summer calendar and get the most hair for your dollar. Imagine that. Convertible, top down, flowing, swimming, all that good stuff with that full head of hair. Advanced Hair's summer sales event is on for a limited time, so get your details and schedule your free consultation today. Here's their phone number, 720-459-HAIR, 459 Hair. One-day treatment, life-changing results with advanced hair. Your new hair is guaranteed to grow. Check out the incredible before and afters and take advantage of their best offer ever. 720-459-HAIR, advancedhair.com, advancedhair.com. Andrew texting in. Both parties are full of lies after you're telling us for years how the Republicans are going to clean up the government and stop the crazy spending. They present the bill with the most spending we've ever seen. I'm not sure it's the most spending we've ever seen. It's so ridiculous. I hate both parties so much. Well, part of the challenge, Andrew, is that you try to go cut the big four, which actually result in most of the spending: Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, military. And I mean, the other party is out there claiming that people are going to be dying in the streets. Rural hospitals are going to be shut down. So if you try to cut too much, one side jumps in and says people are going to die. If you keep it in, well, then everybody says you're adding too much to the debt. So somebody's got to be the adult in the room and actually clean this up.
Yeah, but I do think that nobody in the room is being an adult, because adults in the room under that situation would look at increasing revenues. And that's the one thing that we've decided not to.
That's because you believe in taxes.
Well, no, I believe that you can increase revenues, and that's the idea. Is when we sit there and say, no, it doesn't work that way. No, it doesn't. And when you sit there and you talk about the idea that, oh my gosh, we have these mandatory spending items, and we're also spending more money than we are taking in. We are in a debt. You have two solutions. You can cut spending, or you can raise revenue. That's it. It doesn't matter if that's your household budget, your company's budget. Doesn't matter. Yet we discount and we ignore the idea that we can't raise revenue. If we would hold spending exactly to the levels they are now, it would be uncomfortable. But if we also increase revenues, you'd be able to pay down the debt. That's how it works in your family. That's how it works in businesses. But here in the government, we play by different special rules. And
Bill,
everyone doesn't understand how economics works.
You believe that if we can just tax our way out of this problem?
No, that's not the only thing, but it is part of it. Absolutely. It needs to be. Yes, has to be. Yes. Yes, raising revenue has to be a part of it.
Revenue by strengthening the economy. You strengthen the economy by lower taxes. That's how it works. But happy to hear from you. Phone lines lighten up. Would love to hear your side on all this. Give us a call, 303-696-1971. Text us at 720-819-5115. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Lots happening in Washington, D.C. around the big, beautiful bill. It's making its way through the Senate. It's got to head back to the House. Is this all going to happen by July 4th? Well, we're right in the middle of the sausage-making process, and the bill just gets more and more complicated. But Trump's saying that it's making its way through just fine. One great, big, beautiful bill's moving along nicely, says the president. Tom Tillis, though, voted against it. He's a Republican from North Carolina, and upon voting against the big, beautiful bill, sent out a statement saying he's done. He's not running for Senate anymore. This is good riddance to those non-team playing Republicans. There's a few of them out there. Rand Paul, Thomas Massie, Tom Tillis. Or is it good to have a little bit of an independent edge to push back against what maybe the team should be doing? Love to hear from you. Let's go to the phone lines. Jim, Denver. Good morning, Jim. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. You know, we live in a country now that is going to have a population that is aged, and we are no longer having children to take on the tax burden that our so-called leaders are imposing upon us. And I don't see how the king of debt, the guy even calls himself the king of debt, is going to do anything for this nation's young people who are going to take on this tax burden as we age and expect our standard of living to remain the same or increase. How's this going to work?
Because the alternative is we continue with Nancy Pelosi's budget.
Okay, and that was overspending as well.
Correct.
So why don't we do something? We've already outspent a dozen future generations of Americans and their tax-paying abilities, and we're just going to throw another 3 generations on top of that with this big, beautiful spending bill?
Because, Jim, I don't disagree with you on this, especially on the debt, but these were conversations we had 3-4 months ago when they were initially drafting this thing. At this point, you either move forward with the big, beautiful bill, or we continue to pay Nancy Pelosi's budget. And anytime you want to make real big changes, Jim, you want to go Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, or defense, the amount of hand-wringing, pearl-clutching, people are going to die in the streets if we cut Medicare or Medicaid or Social Security, any of those, that's what you end up getting from the other side. So there's a political reality that if you cut too much, well, then Republicans are going to lose. Donald Trump's making that argument. So, yeah, no, it's ugly, but
Republicans
it's moving forward.
Aren't conservatives, so they are going to lose. Because
Jim,
there's nothing conservative about this political party.
Do you think if they made the cuts that are necessary to get our spending under control that they could continue to win?
No, the whole world's upside down. Okay, so
I agree with you.
We've got Mexican tomato growers flooding the nation with $4 tomatoes, and they were the Florida, farmers were making them were growing them at $16, right? And there's a big difference there. So they're just plowing under their crops. The crops are being plowed under.
Here, though. Jim, for both Jim and Jeff, you guys just a second ago talked about the idea that if I don't think that the premise, I don't think the Democrats are going to come in and say, hey, we need balanced budget, cut spending. And then you both said that the Republicans can't come in and say balanced budget, cut spending. If neither party is going to, why in the world do we ever believe any politician who talks about the debt and says they're going to Congress to cut spending and be fiscally responsible? If we've just agreed on this show, Jeff and Bill's show at almost 8 o'clock in the morning, that neither party is interested in actual austerity or fiscal responsibility, why do we believe the BS that they continue, almost said the wrong word there, the BS that they continue to sprout and yell at our faces during every election cycle? Why do we believe them?
You're correct, and you know what? I tell you what, you've laid it out there. There is no conservative party, so why don't we just stop calling the Republicans conservatives, because there's nothing conservative about a Republican out there.
Jim, do you think if we were under Democrat control with Democrat leadership in both Congress and the White House, we'd be even having these conversations?
No, we need two political parties with boxing gloves on. They need
you
to
may
be
not
kicking
be
each other
happy
in the
with the
butt
Republicans
every
in this
single day.
bill, but my goodness, Jared Polis suspended $28 million on a bridge to nowhere that he got from Joe Biden that was just pumping funny money into the economy around COVID. So, yeah, no, I'm not happy with Republicans. Do I think that these bills should be more austere? Absolutely. But that was a conversation 4 months ago. We're trying to get this thing across the finish line because the only other alternative is Nancy Pelosi's budget at this point.
Stop trying to scare me with Nancy Pelosi's budget, okay? The Conservative Party does not exist. It's not real. These people are outspending. They're going to outspend 25 generations of future Americans when our birth rate
But Jim,
is going down.
Do you think that they could get the necessary cuts in to reduce this spending from the American? You say there's no conservative party.
You've got to grow
I don't
your
think
way
that
out of
there's
it.
a conservative electorate out there.
Correct. There is not, because government spending is business profits. And let's stop lying to one another how business profits are what makes this world go around when government spending is what makes this world go around.
Jim, appreciate the call. Thanks so much. His line will be open. We're just out of time. We'll get to Mary next. Lots to continue to discuss. What do we have coming up next hour? Oh, yeah, Richard Holtorf's going to join us. So it's going to even get spicier. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.